I mean, what people understand to be a digital nomad, you kind of had this idea of a young person with a backpack who's going around all these exotic places, goes far away from home. I'm a digital nomad, but I choose to be in a place most of the year. If I want to be away, I don't have to be here because basically my life is in my mobile phone.
Want to discover new parts of the world while filling the pet-shaped hole in your heart? House-sitting website Trusted House Sitters gives you the chance to live as a local in over 130 countries, opening the door to a world of travel possibilities. And with thousands of pets looking for caring sitters like you every day, there's no doubt you'll discover the perfect travel opportunity with the perfect travel companion. Whether you want to wake up in a Spanish beach condo with a cat or a high-rise apartment in New York City with K9 Company, house sitting allows you to see the world in a new way. And not to worry if cats and dogs aren't your thing. Trusted House Sitters has pets of all shapes and sizes, from alpacas and horses to rabbits and hamsters. Find out more about house sitting and unlock a whole year of unlimited sits with adorable pets by visiting trustedhousesitters.com or download the Trusted House Sitters app on the Apple or Google Play Store.
Welcome to the Digital Nomad Cafe podcast, the show where we discuss what it takes to create a sustainable long-term online business in today's fast-moving environment. We talk with industry experts and freelancers alike to find out what it takes to build and manage a location-independent business.
Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. My guest is going to be Molly, who comes from the UK and currently lives in Granada in Spain. She is a travel blogger and writer who specialises in food, tourism and culture based on Spain. Her website is piccavey.com, piccavey.com. In this episode, we just really dig into why it's very useful and beneficial to have a blog, all of the opportunities that then came about. And we also talk a little bit about why consistency is so important when it comes to blogging, and also some of the ways that Molly has been able to utilise her blog to then start businesses offline. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to leave us a rating and a review, subscribe, and hit me up on Instagram if you have any questions after listening. I'm very excited to bring in Molly, who's in Granada in Spain. Welcome to the show, Molly.
Hi, good to speak to you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what it is that you do?
Yeah, of course. I've been living in Spain since 1998 and I've been writing about my life on the blog since 2011, so coming up to 10 years. Yeah, I'm based in Spain and I could see that I was getting quite a different experience in Spain than a lot of the typical expats who moved to kind of Costa Blanca area. I was being completely immersed in Spanish life and I wanted to kind of show a more in-depth view of Spain.
Yeah, I mean, like the real Spain, as they say, not just going there to live in a tourist resort.
That's right.
You
I
know?
don't have a pool, I swear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be against it. I love Spain personally. I mean, it's somewhere, it's a fondness in my heart. I've always said that's where I want to move back to. We were actually planning on maybe moving there this year, but I mean, that's definitely on hold with the current situation. So yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit about, the sort of things, the businesses that you have, because I know you run a food tour business. That's obviously going to be massively affected by the current situation with regards to coronavirus and everything. So, how are things over there and how do you think businesses are going to fare at the minute?
So at the moment, I mean, tourism is one of the biggest financial motors of Spain. Obviously, it's going to have a massive impact, and the same I say to Spain than Italy. It's the same story. I mean, Italy have other industries as well, not just tourism, but it's a big financial motor for them. So it's being massively impacted. But one thing that I'm really proud of is the fact that here, family and social issues are really important to the Spanish people. And so, even though the economy is suffering badly and is going to suffer badly for months to come, the priority is getting rid of the virus and treating the people the best they can in hospitals and at home. And so I've been extremely impressed by the healthcare systems in place and how things are working. The lockdown here has been one of the strictest ones probably in the world, certainly in Europe, and people are doing well. I mean, people are really listening to it, they're taking notice, but of course, they have huge fines to pay if they don't. So that's a big deterrent. If you've got no money, you've got no income, and then you get a huge fine, then you're not going to go out.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely a way to deter people from going
Yeah, the
outside. And
fines start at €600 and go up to tens of thousands of euros.
well, I mean, look, but the truth is that works. Like people are staying inside, and like you're saying, there people are tending not to break it. In Spain, I mean, a lot of people were kind of talking before the show. Like a lot of people don't have gardens and stuff. Especially if you live in the cities. If you're in Barcelona, even in Granada and Madrid and places like that, a lot of people live in apartment complexes and in flats, and it's definitely going to take its toll on people in terms of staying indoors, and you're not even allowed really outside at all. So it's definitely going to have been a very challenging time for.
Yeah, it's a very challenging time, and people are really kind of noticing if they have a balcony or a terrace or an outside space, even though it's not a garden, maybe not ground floor. If you have a garden, a balcony or a terrace, you're like, oh my God, you really make the most of it. You often see people who will do their walking. I mean, they can't walk, you can't walk outside, so they'll do the walking inside. So you walk up and down the balcony for an hour or something. I don't know,
Get your
whatever.
steps up on your
Yeah,
Fitbit.
you just do whatever you can in the space you have, and in the end, we're really resourceful creatures, and resilient as well. So yeah, so people are being very creative with how they can do sport, and yeah, it really makes you appreciate the home you have, because I, as a travel blogger and as a very busy businesswoman, I spend very, very little time at home. I mean, even in the days when I'm not traveling, I'm in Granada, I'm outside, I'm not in my house. Generally, I come home to sleep. I eat out, like, I never have breakfast at home. I rarely have lunch at home. Dinner is sometimes out. Sometimes I'm having 3 meals a day outside of my house. So to be completely locked down and having to cook and buy food and know what's in the fridge it's been a big learning curve.
For sure. So, like, let's wind it back a little bit. So, you moved to Spain, a good few years ago now, and you started the blog in 2011. What's it like being a digital nomad, somebody who works online, but you also have local businesses. But what's it like living over there for you as somebody who works online?
The thing is, I started being, I'll say, a digital nomad. Digital nomads, I always think that they're in Vietnam with a backpack. But I mean, there are lots of different kinds of digital nomads.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even
I'm in
though,
Ireland.
yeah.
So,
But my head, when the term digital nomad became fashionable, it's kind of like I was already one without realizing it.
yeah, well, I'm pigeonholed in with the name now, so I'm stuck
Yeah,
with it.
no, I'm not
I
slating the
often
name.
wonder
It's
about it.
good, it's good. But I mean, what people understand to be a digital nomad, you kind of had this idea of a young person with a backpack who's going around all these exotic places and goes far away from home. I'm a digital nomad, really, but I choose to be in a place most of the year. But if I wanted to be away, I don't have to be here, because my all of my basically my life is in my mobile phone. I have no reason to be in one location. So yeah, what's it like being in Spain as a digital nomad? I absolutely love it. I feel very privileged because my family live in the UK, and for me to, if I usually, not in the current situation, but usually if I need to go home to see my family, it's about a 3.5 hour trek between airports, getting the plane, getting home, everything. 3.5, 4 hours, I'd be home. It's not a big financial ask. Probably I could do it for €250, or depending on the season or whatever. So I feel that I have kind of everything set up how I want it to be. I don't have any restrictions. It's very scary not knowing what you're going to earn. Kind of the came from a corporate background. I used to work from 1998, or even before then, until 2016. I was working in corporate, and I had a very good wage that came in every month. I had my Christmas bonus, I had the mid-year bonus, all of this stuff, all of these extras, the healthcare and the restaurant tickets and God knows what. So I lived in this kind of bubble. And then when I came out of that and became an entrepreneur, it was like, oh my goodness, now I have to work out how much I'm going to earn in November and how I'm going to get it. And if November's looking weak, what am I going to do to kind of earn money in November? So I find that kind of stressful, maybe because of the background I have, that I came from a very comfortable background where I had to do the same old, and yeah, my wages weren't affected.
For sure. I mean, look, I think any entrepreneur who you talk to who's honest will tell you that, that's part of it, and that's part of the struggle, and it's the non-glamorous part of it. But you can also have months where you make far more and you have far more freedom than people who do have a more regular job and routine. So it's kind of having that balance. It's allowed you to move. You live in a place where you like to live, and you get to blog and write about stuff that you're passionate about. So, you write a lot about food culture and travel, and I'd love to talk a little bit about. So, you said you started the blog in 2011, but in our pre-chat there before we hit record, you were talking about all the different opportunities that kind of came about from having a blog, and which so I'd just like to talk to that a little bit. How. At what point did you take this, like your blog, really seriously and as something that was important to help you to drive that revenue and hit those monthly revenue targets?
Well, I think initially I began the blog out of a little bit of frustration because my corporate job was very kind of dry, and I was missing this creative flair. I didn't know that at the time, but looking back, that's what it would have been. So the blog was a hobby, and basically it was just a way of me, like a kind of old-fashioned travel journal, where you've had some experience and you find it kind of invigorating or exciting or unusual, and I wanted to kind of log it for myself to have kind of a record, but also that I could share it with my family back in England. Or when I moved from Barcelona down to Granada, it was a very, even though it's the same country, it's vastly different. I always remind people that Barcelona is close to France, and Granada is close to Africa. So culturally, very, very different. And also geography wise, I mean, the temperatures, the climate is very different. So when I moved cities, the people from Barcelona wanted to keep in touch with me, and a way of me documenting things on the blog was very comfortable for me to do. So basically, it was just like a travel notebook or an experience notebook, which was personal to me. And I had no kind of ambition for it. That's all it was. And then after a while, you start to realize that one of the entries you've done is getting more traffic. Like maybe all the entries would have like 30 visits from my friends and family. And then one of them you'd see it got 125, and you'd be like, oh, there's something in this.
Yeah, there's something going on here.
Yeah, there's something going on here. And then I don't know, you just start to kind of learn and see and notice the different things that you do, if they're more kind of, if they hit the mark or if they don't, according to the visits, and then you kind of get sucked in, and it was just a hobby. It really was a hobby. And then I also was frustrated by the fact that I would read a lot of kind of accounts by people who'd moved to Spain, and they would talk about their life, and it didn't have anything to do with what I was doing. And it would frustrate me that people would not be kind of immersed in the culture. They wouldn't speak Spanish after living here for many years. They didn't know why it was a holiday like today. They wouldn't know why it was the 1st of May would be a holiday, or why the shops were closed, and they'd be slating the Spanish for not working and God knows what. And things like that would really annoy me. So I wanted to give kind of a more accurate, what I believe to be accurate account, of course, in my humble opinion, as to what life was here, and the reasons why things are like they were. And I think this kind of real take on life here, and a bit more deep information about things, is what kind of attracted brands or companies or individuals to get in touch with me and email me, because they could see kind of what I was saying was real life. It wasn't all glossy. I'm by the pool drinking sangria every morning and I don't have to mop my floor. It was kind of real. It was real, but it was attractive. So I think that this a refreshing kind of take on things, even though I didn't know that was what I was doing, it was just something that I wanted to share, attracted people to get in touch with me. So the interesting thing is that people get in touch with me and propose me projects that I would never have dreamed of, because they can see something in me that fits with their project or with their brand or whatever. So I don't really restrict the work I do to one field or to one area. I just take on projects as they come, and usually to me the more varied the better.
Yeah, and I mean they're coming to you for the authenticity, that you're showing the real life and you're showing your experience and your knowledge about, not just about, but it's about Spain, but it's about subcultures within Spain. It's around the food culture and the travel and all these things. And for that reason, as you're saying, these brands reach out and want to work with you because you're not just doing it for the Instagram, not just
Oh
sticking up
no, I
a
don't.
photo. It's not that fake. That was what I hated about the travel blog. And I mean, I ran a travel blog for a few years when we were way over in Asia and everywhere else. And that was kind of all the way it was going. Everybody was on Instagram with all these super, I mean, what's the word for it? Staged and polished images. And I just hated it. I was like, oh, that's not for me. And I kind
So
of
you haven't
stopped,
got a red
It's like,
dress then? You don't have a red
no, I
dress and
don't.
a
A
big
big flowy
hat?
one and a girl to hold my hand and walk off into the sunset. but that's I mean that's real. That's the real fakeness of Instagram. Yeah, and you see a lot of it now. It's funny, as I was chatting to a friend of mine there recently. I know this is a bit off topic, but a lot of my mates were in Bali. And different people doing different things on online business owners, and they were saying that they went into a cafe, and these two girls came in, like you're saying, the big flowy dress and the big hat, and they ordered their food and they sat down. They did not touch the food, and they sat there for 45 minutes taking different photos of each other with the food in front of them and moving it around and staging it, and hat on, hat off, and hair down, hair up, and then just got up and walked out of the restaurant. They were like, they were just like, oh my good God, what is that? But
I'm clearly doing it wrong because I'm a big foodie and I'm a big eater. So when the food comes, for me to take the photo and not eat the food is a real challenge. And sometimes, even though I write about food, sometimes I forget. And the starter gets demolished. And then I go, oh my God, I should have taken the photo. So you only get the photos from the second course.
look, I'd be on your team, But look, I guess, look, these are there's different elements of it, and there's brands who want to work with people who only have a certain amount of followers, and there's brands who want to work with people who are real, and and there's everything in between, I know from experience that the travel, even like the travel blogging world, and having worked with some big travel companies on their SEO campaigns, like a lot of these companies are still buying links on blogs, they're still paying for sponsored posts. Like that's a huge part of the industry, and they don't even care whether people, genuinely, a lot of these big brands or these big campaigns, they don't even care really about the site. They just care about the
I
metrics.
have a lot of kind of requests like that, and they'll write and they'll say, can you write a blog post about interior doors? And I'm like, well, no, it's not really my niche, and I'll write back and I'll say, I've actually now got a cut and paste reply for this kind of thing because they get so many. And they'll be like, well, we can double the figure. And it's like, yeah, it's not about money. It's like, I cannot talk about interior doors on my blog. It just doesn't wash. Come on.
I hear you, but look, but some people do, and I mean, once again, I know people who build out networks of blogs, and they'll buy expired blogs and kind of just throw them back up, and because there's money, because some of these brands, like we're saying, they just care about the metrics, they don't necessarily care about the brand, and you're able to hold to your integrity, and only work with the brands who you want to work with, and do the work that you feel is aligned with your brand, and that's a positive thing to be able to put out into the world.
Yeah, the only way I've been able to do this is to diversify my incomes, which is a bit what we were saying before. So I created a food tour in Granada to show local food in Granada. So that means vegetables and wine and cheese and things that are actually produced in the province of Granada. We go around shops, restaurants, cafes, and bars along the route, which are run by family businesses, and taste these either typical local traditional recipes or the ingredients are from these farms or small producers. So it's like 100% Granada in all of the aspects, which was really important to me. So that the money, the tourism, the visitors coming to do my tour, who are usually international visitors, the money they spend with my tour is impacting local families, which for me was very, very important. So when I created this route, it's a moral thing. It's a business venture, but it's also for me moral, because tourism, there's a lot of kind of big players in the tourism industry, and the little guy is missing out. And then, yeah, there's a lot of kind of thinking behind creating this food tour. It wasn't just oh, come on, we're going to do a tapas tour and we're all going to get, drink a lot of wine and have a lot of fun. There was a lot more to it than that. And the food tour's been running for, I think, 3 years, just over 3 years. And I have a few guides now who do the tour. I sometimes lead the tour myself. It depends on if I'm around, if I'm free, but I like to keep close to the front line, as it were. I don't like to be kind of the business owner who's far from the operation. So I try and do at least one tour per month. If I'm busy, I'll do one tour per month. If I'm around, I will do more. I'll try and do one every week or one every 2 weeks, because then I can keep an eye on the suppliers, what they're doing, and also hear from the customers to make sure that what we're doing is what they expect and that they're enjoying it and stuff. So the food tour is one thing I did, and then the luxury tours is basically something that I was asked to do, and I really enjoyed it. And it was very linked into my previous job in corporate, where I was a PA to directors, where it was basically whatever they needed, I had to do. So getting things was like the last ticket to Brazil on the overnight for tomorrow, in business class. Quickly sort out the travel and the limousines and the meetings, the meeting rooms in Sao Paulo and everything. So to me, the luxury travel was kind of the same as what I did in my corporate role, but just to an end user rather than to a boss. So the luxury travel, I absolutely love it, because sometimes the customers are or the clients, they're very can be very demanding or very specialist kind of requests, where they have either food allergy or religious requests, like the certain ways of interacting with people. And
You
to
help them
me,
to
the
accommodate
more
that.
challenging, the more challenging it is, the more I love it.
Yeah, fair enough. You love the challenge of it, and
Yeah, I just revel in it. It's like the more, like if they come along and say, I want an elephant to take me to, I don't know, whatever, it's like how to find it. And these weird and wonder, I haven't had that request, by the way, not yet. But the most weird and wonderful challenges that I get requested, to me, it's like, yeah, I just thrive on it. I love it.
cool. And it's good that you have, like you're saying, it's transferable skills from your own job, so you understand the industry, how to deal with these clients, and like you're saying, it also helps then to diversify the income. So you have your online income, which comes in many forms too. So I mean, we didn't really touch on it, but you mentioned, that like hotels and tourism boards and food magazines and newspapers and all these sorts of people would reach out to you looking for articles and content, and to help to have you helping them with their social media. So there's kind of lots of different ways that you're able to generate your income online, as well as having these offline assets as well.
Yeah, so I have run social media channels such as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, for hotels in the past, and high-end restaurants as well. I've also worked on things like translating menus, like restaurant menus, which is really hard. People kind of think, oh, you just whack it into Google Translate, it'll be fine, but it's not like that, especially when we especially when it's a certain level of restaurant where the title of the dish needs to kind of sell a certain atmosphere or a certain idea, a concept. And also when we're thinking about allergies, it's really important that translation is very specific. So that's a speciality I have, and I get requested to do it very infrequently because basically because the restaurants don't realize that they need to do that because they just put it into Google Translate.
Oh, we've all seen it. When you go there and it doesn't make sense. But like you're saying, these more high end restaurants need to take care of stuff like that. And um,
Yeah, because the thing is, it's the upselling. I mean, if you do a good job translating your menu and you're getting a clear message to the customer on every single dish, it's making it attractive so that they will actually order. And when they do order and the dish is presented to them, it's what they expect, and that's the whole point. But yeah, that's a lot of nuances missed on some of the kind of more everyday kind of
yeah,
restaurants.
no, for sure. So I guess all these things then came. You've kind of built your own little personal brand, let's say, in the region through your website and through the tours, and because of that, you've become the person that people come to, for these for anything really related to Spain, but related to the food culture and travel in that region. So has that been one of the benefits of having the site?
Yeah, it's a benefit, but it comes with a lot of work. I mean, from 2011 till 2020, imagine that I've published on that blog at least once a week all of that time and never failed to publish. That's a massive commitment. So it takes a long, long time to build up. And yeah, I'm kind of this go-to person, and I'm known in many circles and many different areas, and that's really good, but it didn't come easy. I mean, some people, I think they believe that you put a couple of photos on Instagram and then you'll be this name. It doesn't work like that. It's networking online, um, as in on social media, LinkedIn, the blog, writing on other sites, accepting requests like yours, like your generous offer to appear on your podcast. Even I've had a few television appearances. I was quoted in, I think it was the Telegraph many, many years ago about they were going to name a square in Granada after Joe Strummer, the musician, and I got a very small quote there. So it's like not a specific, like there's not like one path or one network. I'm trying to, even in the old days, I'd appear in expat forums and make comments, or groups like online groups like Intonations or expat.com, and also offline. Offline shouldn't be underestimated. So I go to a big trade fair in January, which is called Fitor, which is uh, I think it's the third largest in Europe. Um, Travel and tourism fair, and I give out gazillions of business cards there to many people, to suppliers, to possible partners, to other bloggers. Um, I've attended a lot of blogging conferences like TBM or TBEX. Networking with other bloggers should never be underestimated, whether they're new or like new to the scene or whether they're established, because sometimes they may have an invitation to a blog trip and they may kind of think of you, or they may even be running a blog trip and may think of you. So it's networking always as much as you can on all the platforms and in real life.
I mean, look, you summed it up there very beautifully, and you led in with it doesn't happen overnight, and these things take time, and also consistency being key, as well as building that network. Like you're saying, in all areas, across industry, across bloggers, and doing that work and getting your name out there by doing things like this. Getting on podcasts, getting on videos, sharing, getting featured in news articles if you can. There's a great website called Harrow that you can sign up for. That's called Help a Reporter Out, and they essentially send you, journalists who are looking for people, experts on certain topics, and they'll send you requests every day, but you have to be quick, and get on them. But these are all different ways you can get out there and build that online profile and, generate traffic to your website.
Yeah, that's right. Harrow, I'm subscribed to Harrow, but I don't often have time to even read them.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I
yeah,
get
it does work. You maybe have to try a few, but it tends to work.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just one of those other alternative ways to help, get some brand mentions and get some links built to your site. So, look, Molly, coming to the end of the episode, so like, I just want to, kind of recap here a little bit. So, what would be your advice for somebody who's listening to this and maybe they were thinking about heading down to Spain and they were working online? Like, what would you say to the people who are, thinking along those sorts of lines?
In Spain, there's lots of different kind of aspects to the country, and people tend to be attracted to come here. There's different reasons. One is well, obviously the weather, but like it's sunshine and blue sky. It does get cold in Granada, like proper cold, but even when it's cold, there tends to be a blue sky, which makes it a lot more bearable. And it also tends to be dry, like not a lot of rain. So the weather is a big draw to Spain generally, and certainly southern Spain. But a lot of people are attracted by the sports, by the outdoor sports, and because we have the weather, if you kind of into mountain biking, hiking, running, or whatever, golf, or whatever sport you love, it's an amazing place to be able to enjoy sport. One, because you have, as I say, the weather, but two, because probably the cost of living here is slightly lower than in some other areas, certainly in Europe. And so your money will stretch further and you can practice this sport either for free or for a lower cost than you would maybe in the UK or in Nordic countries or other areas of Europe. And I think that's a big draw for people. It's obviously it's a very social place. Usually bars are heaving every single day. There's not a much difference between the weekend and the week here. Like that is wonderful, and we're really missing that right now. Yeah, I think negatives. I can't think of any negatives. The only thing is, if you want to learn Spanish, if one of the reasons you want to come here is to learn Spanish or you're interested in learning Spanish, then the decision you make about where you go is a big one, because there are many places where there are a lot of German people or a lot of English people living. And if you tend to gravitate around those areas, if you don't want to learn Spanish, it's fine because you'll have loads of people to hang out with. But if you want to learn Spanish, it will be a frustration because every time a waiter sees you, they will speak English or German to you.
So it doesn't give you that immersive experience to
Right.
develop your
Yeah.
language skills, Yeah, no, look, lovely. Thanks for finishing off with that. I know there's a lot of people who've moved to Spain and who use it as it's a beautiful place within Europe to live and to go and work online. There's a number of people from Barcelona I've interviewed and Granada as well. So it seems to be those are the two hotspots, let's say, for people who work online. There's good communities in those regions as well with blogger meetups.
There's a lot of co-working spaces. I didn't mention it.
Sweet. Well, I mean, look, that's good to know because that allows you the opportunity to get out and meet other people, and so even if you are moving there on your own or as a couple, or even as a family, it helps you to get out there and meet other people and just build that network so you have some people to hang out with and, you can enjoy those outdoor activities. So look, Molly, if people were looking to get in touch with you, where would be the best place for them to do it?
So picovey.com is the blog. And then on all social media, I'm also Picovey. So Picovey on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Lovely. I'll make sure to link in the show notes and, tag you on Instagram and everything so all the listeners will know, where the account is. So look, Molly, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And thanks for all the listeners for tuning in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Nomad Cafe podcast. Head over to the website to access the resources and links mentioned in today's episode at digitalnomadcafe.com.